Holly. All right, good evening. My name is Bruce Johnson, and I'm the Chief of the Coast Guard Auxiliary's Youth Programs Division. This evening, we'll have a look at what's involved in being an AuxScout staff officer. When AuxScout was rolled out 3 years ago, we were able to spend an entire weekend training the newly appointed district staff officers. Because we have a lot less time tonight, we aren't going to be talking in detail about what AuxScout is. I hope you'll watch our previously recorded program training on YouTube and Auxby Wiki. Let's see, I've turned off everybody's computers' microphones. So this is both to minimize distractions and also to improve bandwidth for people. If you have questions, would you please type them into the chat box, and Holly will be monitoring that. We will plan on leaving time at the end to deal with your questions. Holly will break in if there's something really pressing that we need to cover right now. One more thing, whenever we show you a web address on the screen, Holly will be copying the address into chat. You can copy it from there rather than trying to madly scribble it down. So just to give you an overview of tonight's workshop, here's what we plan on covering. We're going to do staff introductions, quickly review what is AuxScout, review how we did in 2022, what you need to be thinking about when becoming an AuxScout staff officer, what training and meetings are coming up, what resources are available, and of course, we're going to be dealing with your questions. And I have a number of speakers who are going to be answering people's questions that have come up. So starting with introductions, I'd like to introduce you to the national staff. The Youth Programs Division is a part of the National Student Services Directorate. We have 12 members in youth programs. We stand ready to help you. Look up the right person's contact information in Aux directory. And I share this as a spreadsheet with your DSOs who should be sharing it with their staff in their district. First up, we have 3 branch chiefs who work directly with the district staff officers. Each leads a team of DSO-ASs from their respective areas. Arnie Geller works with the Atlantic East DSOs. Bart Knapp works with Atlantic West. And John Michael Zimmerly leads our Pacific area efforts. Next up are our media and program support teams. John Reese heads up our marketing and social media efforts. Helping him is Ron Blaisdell on photo archives. Ron also heads up program support, and working with Ron are Mike McBride and Stefan Recke. The branch chief for STEM training is PJ O'Neill, who heads up both STEM education development and our AuxScout workshops. On PJ's team are Hiram Escabi, John Wolf, Mike Kappas, and Robin Pope. Returning to the district teams, I hope that you know who your district staff officer is. For Atlantic East, the 5 DSO-ASs are Jason Oliveira in First Northern, John Lessick in First Southern, Jim White in 5th Northern, and Holly Johnson in 5th Southern. The DSO position in D7 is currently open. Working with Bart Knapp, the DSOs in Atlantic West are Anthony Waters in 8th Eastern, Bart Knapp in 8th Coastal, Zach Taylor in 8th Western Rivers, Ron Blaisdell in 9th Central, and Jeff Bailey in 9th Western. The 9th Eastern DSO position is currently open. Finally, our Pacific team includes John Michael Zimmerly in 11th Northern, Dale Zimmerman in 11th Southern, Klaus Nihos in D13, Aleem Shabazz in D14, and Stu Robards in D17 in Alaska. And Stu has skied in off the Mendenhall Glacier this evening. I'd like to take just a few moments to remind you about the AuxScout program. As mentioned a few moments ago, there is an outstanding recorded video on this that you can link to from AuxB Wiki, or alternatively, you can view it from YouTube. So why are we here? The Coast Guard Auxiliary and the Sea Scouts have been working together since at least 1989 National Jamboree. The first formal agreement to cooperate was signed in 2009. In subsequent years, the Auxiliary and the Sea Scouts conducted many joint projects at the local, district, and national levels that went very well. Based in part on this success, a second, more comprehensive agreement was developed and signed in 2018, in which the Auxiliary designated the Sea Scouts as its official youth program. Let's have a look at who the Sea Scouts are and how they relate to the Auxiliary.
The Boy Scouts of America's Sea Scout program is now the official youth program of the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary, the Coast Guard's uniform volunteer component.
Forging new leaders in service to others, safe and responsible boating.
These are the noble objectives of this great alliance between two of the most widely recognized responsible seamanship organizations in the world.
We've come together to share details about this alliance because we consider the outcomes vital for our country, for safe and responsible boating, and for the future of the Sea Scouts and the Auxiliary.
We ask our leadership and all our members to collaborate and make this program successful. Here are just a few of the many benefits the Alliance offers us.
Sea Scouts, you will benefit from augmented Coast Guard Auxiliary seamanship, STEM, leadership, and vocational training. You and your leaders can participate in Coast Guard Auxiliary shoreside and underway training and activities, introducing you to the exciting world of the United States Coast Guard. You'll also have full access to the Coast Guard Auxiliary seamanship, vocational, and leadership development programs. And Sea Scouts at least 14 years old are welcome to apply for auxiliary membership. Auxiliary flotillas can charter Sea Scout ships or units, creating a natural pathway from Sea Scouts to auxiliary membership or enlistment in the Coast Guard. Even Sea Scout ships chartered to other groups can be supported by local auxiliary flotillas. Auxiliarists and Sea Scouts, you will serve side by side, blending experience, youth, leadership, STEM training, and potential. Sea Scouts may even find their career path in the Coast Guard or maritime industry. Together, our organizations will learn, grow, and improve boating safety throughout the nation, as we ourselves grow and enhance our seamanship and leadership skills. You'll hear much more in the coming months. We hope you're as excited as we are about this dynamic program that creates stronger leaders and superior seamanship today and tomorrow. Please watch for details as they emerge from your flotilla and ship leaders and help us forge this exciting alliance that ensures excellence, fun, and safety on U.S. waterways now and into the future.
Before we go any further, I'd like to remind you that AuxScout is Coast Guard speak for the Auxiliary Sea Scout Youth Development Program. No one is called an AuxScout. We work with Sea Scouts and need to be careful that we refer to the Scouts as Sea Scouts. If a Sea Scout is also an auxiliarist, they're called an auxiliarist or a Sea Scout auxiliarist. A Sea Scout member of the auxiliary of an auxiliary chartered ship is called a Sea Scout. The 2018 MOA mandates several changes to how we work with Sea Scouts. These changes are codified in the AuxScout Standard Operating Procedure, or SOP, and are not incorporated yet in the Auxiliary Manual. The most important changes are as follows. Auxiliary flotillas and divisions can charter Sea Scout ships, but not troops or packs. Sea Scouts as young as 14 can join the auxiliary. For all others, the minimum auxiliary joining age remains 17. A Sea Scout who joins the auxiliary must remain a Sea Scout member until at least their 17th birthday if they wish to continue their auxiliary membership. Sea Scouts and adult leaders who join the auxiliary have full access to training and qualifications available only internally to the auxiliary and the Coast Guard. Local flotillas are encouraged to provide public education, training, vessel examinations, and public affairs assistance to local ships. Auxiliaries can instruct Sea Scouts in a broad range of seamanship topics. Among the learning opportunities is the auxiliary boat crew training. Information about this is available on AuxB Wiki. Additionally, requirements for auxiliary boat crew and other auxiliary member training courses have been compared to Sea Scout advancement requirements, and where they are the same or similar, that information is available on AuxB Wiki. This makes it easy for auxiliary instructors to teach the Coast Guard's way of operating watercraft while helping Sea Scouts meet their rank advancement requirements. Remember, one of our objectives is to work with the Sea Scouts to promote recreational boating safety. We can do this at boat shows, booths at boating supply stores and boat ramps, BSA Council Scout shows, and even Order of the Arrow events. A great place to start is to work with local Sea Scout ship or Scout Council. Ironically, incidentally, I chose this photo because it shows Rear Admiral Smith, who at the time was the 5th District Commander, standing with Sea Scouts of Ship 16 from Portsmouth, Virginia. Admiral Smith is a big believer in the opportunities that this partnership offer. You're probably wondering whether it's necessary for your flotilla to charter a ship so that they can work with Sea Scouts. The short answer is no. There are hundreds of Sea Scout ships all over the country, and most would welcome the opportunity to work with you. This can be as informal as occasional visits to teach special subjects such as navigation or radio communications, or a more formal commitment to provide auxiliaries as adult leaders and trainers, and setting up underway training opportunities for Sea Scout and auxiliary vessels. Building a partnership with one or more local Sea Scout ships can involve holding joint vessel exam events, public affairs booths, or informal picnics. The bigger your investment, the bigger the rewards. And of course, remember to have fun. The AuxScout SOP also authorizes every flotilla and division to charter one Sea Scout ship each. That means that the Coast Guard Auxiliary could potentially organize over 800 new Sea Scout units. That would provide large membership increases to local auxiliary units. What would the auxiliary look like? It would, of course, be much bigger, much younger, and much more able to help the Coast Guard than it currently does. I know that some of our older members are worried that working with Sea Scouts would mean babysitting immature Cub Scout age children, but that's not who Sea Scouts are. Sea Scouts are older teenagers who are mostly the best and brightest kids in the neighborhood. They take responsibility for their actions, and they're not scared off by hard work or wearing uniforms. Sound like a good addition to your flotilla? Well, I thought so. And don't forget that these Sea Scouts have parents who are mostly younger than the average Coast Guard auxiliarist. Once you get them involved, you'll have their help for many years to come. Here are some other ways we can work with Sea Scouts. Nearly every flotilla knows how to do public education, vessel safety checks, and public affairs. One of our goals is to make the Sea Scouts a better program, which in turn meets one of the Coast Guard's objectives for this partnership. If your flotilla can't charter a Sea Scout unit called a ship, they certainly can put a boating safety class on or do vessel safety checks for the scout boats. One type of joint Sea Scout auxiliary activity that's been successfully held across the country for many years is safety at sea events. This event is usually hosted by Coast Guard active duty and auxiliary staff. It provides the Sea Scouts with opportunity to learn safety techniques and train on equipment that they often don't have available to them. Skills include damage control trainers, firefighting, P6 pumps, man overboard drills, exposure suits, live flare training, radio communications, and marine environmental protection. Safety at sea events usually also involve Coast Guard and auxiliary recruiter presentations. Everyone has a great time, and the Sea Scouts leave energized and enthused. And the Coasties and auxiliaries get a lot out of working together. I'd like to take a few moments now to review with you how we did in 2022. We're probably all familiar with comments about how we're making a difference with auxiliaries, but these are numbers that are tangible reflections of our accomplishments. First off, let's talk about how the Sea Scouts did in 2022. The Sea Scouts had hoped to increase the number of units, but they unfortunately finished with a very small net loss of 3 ships. This is the best unit retention rate in several years and beats all other BSA programs in this category. For the first time in a while, the number of Sea Scout youth rose, this year by about 1.5%. There were 38 Sea Scouts who achieved the quartermaster rank. An interesting measure is the average size of Sea Scout ships. Nationally, the average number of Sea Scout youth in a ship is about 8. In auxiliary chartered ships, on the other hand, the average number of Sea Scout youth is 13. This could just be a statistical fluke, but what it suggests to me is that we're doing a really good job of recruiting members and providing a good quality program. Let's have a look at the AuxScout program numbers. First off, we recorded nearly 21,000 hours in aux data, which is a 41+% increase over 2021. The top 5 districts were 5th Southern, 8th Coastal, 9th Central, D13, and 5th Northern. It's worth noting, though, that 5th Southern had as many hours as the next 4 districts combined. That's the good news. The bad news is that there were 2 districts that logged fewer than 50 hours for the entire district in 2022, and another 3 that logged fewer than 300 hours. This could just mean that people aren't filling out their hours reports, but it suggests that little effort is being made to support AuxScout in these 5 districts. The number of auxiliary chartered Sea Scout ships rose to 27, with 550 Sea Scout youth and adult members. This represents a 93% increase in membership over 2021. Before we pat ourselves on the back about this, we have 23 prospective new ships that we're tracking but failed to turn into new ships during the year. The districts with the largest number of ships are 5th Southern with 7 ships, 8th Coastal with 4 ships, and 5th Northern and 1st Southern with 3 ships each. All of the districts in Atlantic East have at least 1 ship. Half of the districts in Atlantic West have at least 1 ship, and only 1 Pacific area district, 11th Southern, has a single ship. That means that 9 of the 16 districts are chartering ships and 7 haven't even taken that first step. During 2022, AuxData 2 was enhanced to track Sea Scouts who are also Coast Guard auxiliaries. As of January 1st, there were 168 Sea Scout auxiliaries flagged in AuxData. When the new member application is updated, there will be a Sea Scout checkbox on the form that will help us to track this key demographic more accurately. In the meantime, if you're aware of a Sea Scout auxiliarist whose Sea Scout membership isn't flagged in AuxData, your DSO-AS, Ron Blaisdell, or I can update that AuxData record. AuxData was also updated in 2022 to allow your DIROCs to enter certain BSA training completions in your training records. As of today, 408 auxiliaries have completed youth protection training, 20 have completed Sea Scout Adult Leader Basic training, 28 have completed Safety Afloat training, and 17 have completed Safe Swim Defense training. In each of these categories, 5th Southern is the top district. I'd like to point out that there are about 170 auxiliaries who serve in either an AuxScout staff officer position or on the National Youth Programs Division staff. All of us are required to complete youth protection and Sea Scout Adult Leader Basic training as part of our job requirements. The fact that only 20 auxiliaries total have completed the Sea Scout Adult Leader Basic training tells me that most AuxScout staff officers are ignoring this basic job requirement. Please take care of this week. It'll only take you about 4 hours and does not include a test. It's quick and easy. Finally, here are a few other measures of the AuxScout program in 2022. We held 20 AuxScout workshops and Coast Guard Tech Talks, all of which were delivered online and are available on YouTube. 8 Sea Scouts embarked aboard the Bark Eagle summer training cruise. 4 Sea Scouts participated in AIM Week, and there were 7 safety at sea events around the country. Okay, so we had a really good year in 2022. 2022 is now in our rearview mirror, and it's time to focus on 2023. Let's take a few minutes to explore what is involved in serving as an AuxScout staff officer at any level. You've been appointed to a leadership position. Just because you are staff doesn't mean that you aren't officers or leaders. You are. Your unit leader is looking to you to lead AuxScout in your district, division, or flotilla. That means that your commander wants you to be the AuxScout expert, and that won't happen just because you put on new shoulder boards. You're expected to take training. You're expected to know what online resources are available and to know what those resources say. Master your job and you'll be able to make a difference in the Coast Guard Auxiliary. So know your job. The sound that I'm hearing just now is everyone slapping their foreheads with the palms of their hands. The first thing you need to know to be successful in your job is to know what your job is, right? Pretty basic. You should start by knowing your job description and becoming familiar with all of the training and resources that go with it. I apologize that the type on this page is too small for you to read. If you go to the page referenced here, and Holly is plugging that URL into chat right now, you'll find your job description, a sample district strategic plan, a report form template for your job, and a link to what training is available. If you haven't done so already, visit this in the next day or so. Get on top of your job. Serving as a staff officer at whatever level is a leadership position. Someone has given you the responsibility to become the AuxScout expert in your flotilla division or district. Your job is to get to know the program well, encourage other auxiliaries to get involved, and help them make connections with the Sea Scouts. Develop an AuxScout plan for the year and establish specific measurable goals. A plan without goals is just wishful thinking. Know what you want to accomplish and then figure out what needs to happen to make your goals work. Never miss an opportunity to talk up AuxScout to your shipmates. Your monthly report shouldn't simply be a recitation of the phone calls you made. Build a picture of what you're doing with the Sea Scouts and explain how that will help your unit be successful. Promote, promote, promote. Communicate early and often. You should be talking, not just emailing, the next person up the chain of leadership and management at least once a month. You should be doing the same with the next person below you. My district's DSO tries to talk with all of the AuxScout ADSOs, SOs, and FSOs throughout her district every month. She also touches base with our district commodore and chief of staff. They know what's going on and know that the AuxScout staff are delivering the goods for the district. Help them see that AuxScout is the solution, not a burden. There are report templates for all positions on Auxby Wiki. We'll talk about online reporting in a little bit. If you haven't already done so, you should get to know the AuxScout Memorandum of Agreement, or MOA, and the Standard Operating Procedure, or SOP. They're both online. If you haven't already watched it, check out the AuxScout Workshop number 201, which explains the SOP in detail. The SOP outlines how we should be working with the Sea Scouts. You are expected to know what both of these documents say, backwards and forwards. The Auxiliaries National Youth Programs Division is a part of the Student Programs, or S Directorate. It is responsible for providing program oversight for AuxScout. We work directly with your DSO-AS and are there to provide policy direction and resources. I would encourage you to work with your chain of leadership to find answers to your questions. When in doubt, though, please reach out to my staff and to me, and we'll be glad to help. Make sure that you copy your chain of leadership and management so that they're aware of the question and the answer. Throughout the year, we hold meetings and workshops to stay on top of AuxScout program and help you get better at your job. Let's start with the meetings. Our AuxScout all-staff forums are held quarterly at 20:30 Eastern Time, usually on the second Sunday of the month. These forums are all for all AuxScout staff, as well as anyone with interest in how the auxiliary supports the Sea Scouts. If your flotilla commander would like to attend, please invite them. Please go ahead and invite your local Sea Scout Council Commodore. We want your questions, so please send them in ahead of the forum. The Youth Programs Division and DSO-AS also meet quarterly about 6 weeks ahead of the all staff forums. ADSOs are encouraged to attend, and if an FSO-AS would like to join us, please send them the invitation. These meetings are held at 20:30 Eastern. Finally, we hold a much more informal meeting with the youth programs branch chiefs on months that there are no all-staff forums. This is a very small meeting. If a question or concern comes up that should be referred to this group, please send your question through your chain of leadership and management. And I don't want this to sound like I'm being bureaucratic, but the people above you need to be aware of what your questions are so they build expertise as well. If they're not getting the answers you're looking for, let them know that you're going over their head, because you need to have answers and we have those answers for you. Each of the district teams should be meeting as a group on a regular basis. Please check with Arnie Geller, Bart Knapp, or John Michael Zimmerly to find out when these meetings will be. As a reminder, Arnie, Bart, and John Michael are here to help you. If you have a challenge, problem, concern, question, or simply need help, please email or call them. So now let's talk about training. The single most important training to complete is BSA Youth Protection Training, or YPT. Coast Guard Headquarters is serious about getting auxiliaries BSA Youth Protection trained. They'd like everyone to take YPT, and certain jobs, such as AuxScout staff officers, require it. The online training takes about 90 minutes and is really informative. From my own experience, I can tell you that I learned a lot about not only protecting young people, but also about protecting myself. Every AuxScout officer should also take Sea Scout Adult Leader Basic Training. This online course is delivered in several modules of about 30 minutes each. They help you to get a better understanding of what Sea Scouting is. If this piques your curiosity, please take advantage of Sea Badge, which is a weekend training seminar that provides Sea Scout leadership training in depth. You'll learn a lot, and I promise you'll have a lot of fun. Sea Badge is being delivered as a 2-weekend online course at a very low cost, as well as in-person courses in a few locations. Please check it out. They are announced on the Sea Scouts BSA Facebook group. Finally, check out AuxSB Wiki and AuxScout YouTube channel for additional training videos and workshops. The SOP also calls for some additional training in certain situations. When Sea Scouts are involved in swimming-related activities associated with the Auxiliary Paddlecraft or AuxPAD program training, then at least one adult must hold current BSA Safe Swim Defense training certification. This can be fulfilled by a Sea Scout leader, but it will be the responsibility of the auxiliarist mission commander to ensure that the training has been done. Additionally, if Sea Scouts participate in a mission involving an auxiliary surface facility, then at least one adult must hold current BSA safety afloat and CPR training prior to commencing the mission with Sea Scouts. This can also be fulfilled by a Sea Scout leader, but again, it is the responsibility of the auxiliarist mission commander to ensure that the training has been done. Both BSA Safe Swim Defense and BSA Safety Afloat training are available online, and each takes about a half an hour to complete. I'd like to remind you that there are several workshops that have been delivered online and are available through YouTube. In nearly every case, a PowerPoint slide deck is also available on AuxSB Wiki. These can be delivered online at district or sector training conferences. The National Youth Programs Division can provide trainers who can mentor local members. Additionally, the youth program staff are available for coaching on special topics. Contact us and we'll match you up with the best person for your need. There are several important online resources that you need to be thoroughly familiar with. You don't need to memorize them, but knowing what they say will help you quickly answer questions. They'll also give you ideas for what your next steps should be. AuxSB Wiki is the auxiliary website that provides detailed information about AuxScout. It can be reached from tinyurl.com/auxbwiki. Take some time to review it carefully. If you have questions about Sea Scouting or AuxScout, chances are you'll find your answers here. Make sure that you tell all of your shipmates about this very important resource. The official Sea Scouts BSA website is seascout.org. It provides detailed information about Sea Scouting, our official youth program. There's even a page about how the Sea Scouts work with the Coast Guard Auxiliary. We have a very active Facebook group with nearly 1,700 members at facebook.com/groups/AuxScout. AuxScout program, training, workshops, and resource announcements will always appear here first. If you're a Facebook user, please subscribe to this group. Similarly, the AuxScout YouTube channel has nearly 100 videos about Sea Scout program ideas, STEM training, AuxScout workshops, public affairs resources, and safety at sea training sessions. Subscribe to this channel and be sure to ring the bell. This will guarantee that you'll be notified when new videos are available. A comment about this channel. There are recordings that are potentially useful for flotilla or ship meetings. Some are as short as 10 minutes, while others can run upwards to an hour. Look over the available recordings to see what's available. We're constantly expanding the available topics. We also are adding a new series this year called Quick Tips. These videos will feature 2 to 5 minute focused presentations on a single topic. Please send your ideas to PJ O'Neill. We have an interactive map that shows what auxiliary flotillas and Sea Scout ships are in your area and how to contact them. Its address is tinyurl.com/AuxScoutMap. Take a look at your area. If there are places where there are flotillas but no Sea Scout groups, maybe you'll want to start a Sea Scout ship there. Conversely, an area with Sea Scouts but no flotilla might be a good place for the auxiliary to expand. Check it out. And by the way, this was updated today, so I know that it is totally current. We recently created a new AuxScout Google group. This group is used to quickly pass announcements and important information to Coast Guard auxiliaries who support the AuxScout initiative and Sea Scouts BSA, our official youth program. This group will be used only for this purpose. Please feel free to add auxiliaries who work with you in support of AuxScout or the Sea Scouts. If you have questions, please contact Ron Blaisdell or me. Turning to your monthly reports, I'd like to introduce Ron Blaisdell, who tell you about submitting reports either by using the PDF forms on AuxBWiki or the new online reporting system. Ron?
Good evening, everyone. We have a system that has been put together called auxscout.org. It is 2 portions of a portal. The first part of it is our media resources. This is a link to all of our photo archives. All of the items that are in the photo archives, both photos and videos, are all vetted. They all have appropriate signatures, and everyone in all the uniforms are properly uniformed. So they're perfectly usable really anywhere if you need to do some promotion. And that's the great thing about the photo archives. The second half of the site happens to be where we have our staff reporting page. You have to be set up to use the staff reporting page to begin with. Once you get that done, though, it's pretty much a simple process of logging in and being able to submit the report. Doesn't matter if you're a district staff officer, doesn't matter if you're a member of the staff, the youth program staff. We have the capability of being able to submit the reports on our system and to forward them to your district chief of staff, or to anyone else for that matter. So if you're interested in being part of the staff reporting system, just feel free to reach out to me and we'll set up a meeting and we'll get it all done.
Okay, thank you very much, Ron. And this just is a sample of the sort of information that you would see on the media archives that Ron was mentioning. One of the reasons that the auxiliary is supporting the Sea Scouts is to provide STEM training opportunities. I'd like to introduce PJ O'Neill, who will talk about our STEM training efforts.
Good evening, everyone. I'm PJ O'Neill, the branch chief for STEM training. So I just wanted to let you know, especially if you're new to the division, what is housed under STEM training and how we can help you enrich the experience of your auxiliaries and, of course, the Sea Scouts. So just briefly, something that Bruce had mentioned before in our branch, and many thanks to Jim Wolf for helping out with this, is the application for the AIM summer program at the Coast Guard Academy, as well as the newly housed under us experience aboard the U.S. Coast Guard bark Eagle. Other training opportunities that are online and available nationwide is our signature series of Tech Talks. So the Tech Talks happen every fourth Tuesday of the month at 9 p.m. Tech Talks are announced first, as Bruce had mentioned, on the Facebook page, the AuxScout Facebook page, and they are also posted on the Sea Scout Facebook page. Additionally, I would send out an email reminder 2 weeks before the Tech Talk, and that's 9 p.m. Eastern time. So you'll have to adjust for your time zones. Now, we had a very good year of Tech Talks last year, and so far for 2023, we're looking at January 24th, the topic of buoys, the data they collect, how they transmit and share that data, and the practical application for that data presented by the National Data Buoy Center. February 28th is going to focus on hurricanes, meteorology, hurricane preparedness from the National Hurricane Center, and March 28th, marine charts focusing on the Office of Marine Cartography from NOAA. So as you can tell, we really are able to attract top-notch subject matter experts. Many thanks to Hiram Muscovy, who joined the team this year, for leading the charge in setting up the first 3 Tech Talks. The Tech Talks make excellent training for ships, whether they can tune in live that evening. They are always recorded and posted to the AuxScout YouTube channel and the Sea Scout YouTube channel as well. So they are available for free in perpetuity and can be used as a group training in a ship setting. But I would also reiterate something Bruce had said, that we're finding that many auxiliaries are finding benefit in using either the full Tech Talks or portions of the Tech Talks as flotilla training. So when you see these announcements come out, I would ask you to please pass it along to your ships so that they're aware of the date and the training available, but also pass it along to fellow auxiliaries, because all Sea Scouts and all auxiliaries are certainly more than welcome. Some topics don't quite fit into the Tech Talk criteria. And so if you have an idea of an interesting topic, and I'll just mention one from chat today that has, or tonight, that has come up before, there are some units that participate in sea perch or the mate competition. And so that's something I'd like to explore and get the experience of, because that might be something that other units around the country are interested in. And we could perhaps set up an AuxScout webinar on that to get the word out on how an interested unit or flotilla ship partnership could get involved under the advice and guidance of a ship or flotilla that is already involved. And the last initiative that is new this year will be the Quick Tip series. And Quick Tip videos will run 3 to 5 minutes. and will hopefully answer the most common questions and roadblocks that are encountered in developing flotilla and ship partnerships and other sorts of questions that often come up from auxiliaries regarding participation with the Sea Scouts. So if you have any ideas or questions, again, if you don't know me, my name is PJ O'Neill. I am happy to talk offline with anyone, and we'll find time for a phone call or an email conversation.
Okay, thank you very much, PJ. So we've received several questions over the past few weeks that I'd like to share with you. Topics include AuxScout mission codes and Aux data, YPT what-if situations, promoting AuxScout, building ships, and an AuxScout PQS. I hope that'll pique your curiosity. Okay, first off, I'd like to remind everyone that it's very important to record your AuxScout related hours. You record them just like you would record any other hours. The key difference is that you should add an operations code to the report. If you are not a registered Sea Scout leader, you should add the operations code AUXSCO1 to the hours forms that directly relate to your AuxScout activity only. Don't apply it to the hours that are not AuxScout related. On the other hand, if you are a registered Sea Scout leader, apply the operations code AUXSCO2 to all of your hours forms, regardless of whether they are Sea Scout related or not. The question about what mission code to use for in Aux data has come up several times. A generic response is that you should use the mission code that would apply to the type of service you're performing. Most things we do for the AuxScout program or the Sea Scouts fall into 99A. If you take BSA training, use 99 Delta. If you give BSA training to auxiliaries, use 06B, which is other member training. Teaching any public education course should use the appropriate 14 series code. If you're representing the auxiliary to the Scouts, I would recommend that you code them 10 Juliet, 10J for community relations. And as a reminder, prep and administration time falls under 99 Alpha. So if you're getting ready for a meeting or you're driving to something, that's where that goes. I know a very real concern is how to interact with teenage youth. BSA has developed the youth protection training to teach you how to safely work with Scouts. All of us should take this training and have the training inserted into our Aux data training record. A YPT golden rule is to never interact one-on-one with Scouts. Let's have a look at a few real life situations and I'll ask you how you should handle them. So the question is, does this require a second adult? A Sea Scout visits a flotilla meeting. Do you need a second adult? Well, yeah, you do, but in this situation, it's not required that any of the auxiliaries have completed YPT. You just need to remember that you need a second adult.
Do we have to make sure that we have mixed gender adults at present?
If a Sea Scout is visiting a flotilla meeting, you're going to have multiple adults, and there is no requirement that you have female adults there. If that's the case, you might want to suggest that the Sea Scout bring their mom or another female adult, but it's really not the flotilla's responsibility to do that. Good question. Sea Scouts Sea Scout participates in a public education course that's open to the public. Do you need a second adult there? The answer is yes, you do. But the auxiliaries who are present, again, are not required to have youth protection training in this instance, and it's not their obligation to ensure if there is co-ed participation. It's not their responsibility to come up with co-ed adult coverage. Driving a Sea Scout to a patrol. Do you need a second adult there? Anybody?
Yes.
Yes, you do. Never ever drive a Sea Scout to anywhere without a second adult in the car. You particularly don't want to put yourself in a one-on-one situation, but you need a second adult in the car. Phoning, emailing, or texting a Sea Scout. Can you phone, email, or text a Sea Scout directly?
No.
No.
What do you have to do?
I'm sure another adult is on the email.
Correct. So it could be another auxiliarist, it could be a parent, it could be a Sea Scout leader. Doesn't matter. Just some other adult needs to be on that so that they are aware of what is being said and who is talking to whom.
So
Right.
a detail on that one, if I might.
Mhm.
That other adult should not be a spouse.
A spouse of the Sea Scout? Oh,
No, a spouse of the person making the email. In other words, you can't,
that may be a pragmatic thing, but that's not an auxiliary rule.
BSA rule.
That is a BSA rule.
Okay.
Spouses cannot be the second adult.
Okay, thank you.
So here's a practical question, and I'm new to this. I'm Alexander Urcioli, and I'm in Monterey, California. And so if I am communicating with a Sea Scout, would I then carbon? Could I just CC another adult so that they're in the loop for the conversation?
Yes.
How do I
Yes,
do that?
you must do that.
Okay, but that suffices. If I CC another adult,
right,
and they're in the thread, then I have done due diligence in that area.
That is correct. It's not a matter of forwarding it to the other adult. You want to carbon copy them in on the conversation so that they're seeing it as it happens.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Sure. Mentoring a Sea Scout on boat crew qualifications. So let's say having a Sea Scout over to your house and working them on boat crew qualifications. Do you need to have a second adult in the room?
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
Yep. They don't have to be right next to you, but they have to be within eyesight of what's going on. Talking with a Sea Scout face-to-face about the Coast Guard Coast Guard Academy.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and interestingly, the Coast Guard Academy does not require that of Academy admissions partners, but the SOP requires it. Helping a Sea Scout with their advancement requirements. You need a second adult?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Teaching a skill in a Sea Scout ship meeting.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
you shouldn't be able to have a ship meeting without two adults.
Correct. So that's just, you see what the pattern is here? You have to have a second adult in all of these situations. It really is not a burden. Including a second adult in all of these should be easy to do. And it is critically important both for protecting the young person as well as for protecting you. And the question, who needs YPT training for these activities? The only two activities here that are described that you don't have to have YPT training is a Sea Scout visiting a flotilla meeting or a Sea Scout participating in a public education course that is open to the public. Those
Yeah,
are
Bruce,
specifically.
on that one example on the Sea Scout participates in a PE course open to the public. So if the Sea Scout does, if you don't know the Sea Scout, that the person is a Sea Scout, then, and they don't declare themselves as a Sea Scout, then you would, technically you wouldn't have to have that second adult, correct?
I would strongly recommend against interacting with teenagers without having a second adult in the room. It's as much as anything else, it's a matter of protecting yourself.
No, I understand that, but I'm just the technicality of it. Because I've been in a wood badge class where we had to deal with a scout that registered as a explorer, and so we had to have two adults around at all times with him, even though he was in my patrol. But if he had registered, he was old enough to register as an adult scout, and if he had done that, then we would have been free of that requirement. But I mean, it's just one of those little technicality things.
Let's not go with technicalities. Let's just think in terms of what is going to give us the good practice and giving not only the young people protection, but also protecting ourselves. I'm sorry to, let me just finish this thought and then I'll let you comment. I'm sorry to say we live in a litigious society. People love to sue people over the drop of the hat. And I would hate to think that any of our auxiliaries are going to get sued for doing something that they were just trying to do good for somebody else. Having a second adult will help to protect them in that situation. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm done with that soapbox. Go ahead.
Hey, Bruce, this is Mike McBride. Another thing, so if you receive an email or a text from a youth, number one, if they have not included their parent or another adult, I always 100% of the time will reply to them and include their adult and put a reminder, hey, we cannot have one-on-one contact. I've, in my experience, I've never had an issue with adults initiating contact one-on-one with a scout, but multiple times to other adults and to myself, I have received texts or emails. Be polite about it, but be firm. I will not talk to just you. I'm not allowed.
Right. Well, and you've done two things there to ensure that you're going to be good. One is to copy another adult in, and the other is to remind the scout that they share the responsibility of following the rules. Okay.
I'd like to mention a gotcha, if I can.
Go ahead.
We had a ship up north, and I had a number of youth on Facebook, and they were. I knew that there were Sea Scouts that were in my ship, and of course they knew me because of that. They were direct messaging me via Facebook chat, and you just need to be aware that you still cannot respond to that simply because it's going to violate the two-person rules and youth protection. So just be aware of it.
If there is a need to respond, you want to make sure that you add another adult.
That's really hard though in that chat environment.
Yeah, I understand that, but
because it's a direct.
If that's a situation, the situation you're dealing with, initiate a new message to the scout with another adult copied in.
I'm just forewarning.
Yep.
It's a gotcha.
It's a gotcha, and we can make this work. It does work. It takes a little extra effort, but it is absolutely worth it, both for protecting the young people as well as protecting ourselves.
Bruce?
Sir.
one thing that the ship that I'm affiliated with, they use an app called Group Me, which some of you may know of, where there are individual conversations. However, it is automatically copied to the skipper of the ship so that there are two people on that message.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
This is Pat Curley.
Mhm.
While you were talking, I was actually reading some of the youth protection guidelines. So when you're driving in a vehicle with a Sea Scout, you don't need two adults.
Yes, you do.
You can't have one-on-one contact. So if you had one adult and 3 or 4 kids there, you're good to go. It also mentions that you can have 2 registered adult leaders who could be spouses, or 1 registered adult leader and then the youth's parent, or another adult. But yeah, so that's the reason why it's very important that we take this youth protection training. The other thing that we're dealing with and you got to be aware of is we're dealing with 14 to 20-year-olds. Nothing scarier than a 14 or 15-year-old girl hanging around a bunch of 18, 19-year-old boys. And according to the guidelines, scouts shouldn't, well, they shouldn't be sleeping together anyways, but we have to be very, very careful about even our youth and the age differences to ensure that we don't have one-to-one contact there either.
Okay, thank you. And what I'd like to ask, we can't possibly go into detail about youth protection training here. I'm glad that we had this conversation. What I'd recommend is for those of you who have additional questions about YPT, that you consult the online documentation that BSA has for YPT. And every Scout Council has experts on this who would be in a position to answer your questions. And they are certainly going to be more prepared to answer your questions than I am, I'm sorry to say. But there you have it. Okay, we're going to move on. Next topic is promoting AuxScout. And I'd like to introduce John Reese, who's our marketing guy, who is going to talk to you about the importance of telling our story in the districts.
Thank you very much, Bruce, for that introduction. Hello, everybody. Aloha from Hawaii. It's still late afternoon here. I know it's getting late for most of you, so I'll try to be pretty quick with what I'm going to say. There are 3 points that I want to talk about. First of all, is getting the message about AuxScout within the auxiliary. I think that that is one of the biggest challenges that we still have, even though the AuxScout program is several years old now. A lot of people within our own organization just don't seem to know about it. The Sea Scouts and the Boy Scouts of America are doing a good job on their end of promoting the partnership with themselves. But I think the auxiliary is falling short on its side of getting the message out. So I'd like to address primarily the DSOs who are on the call right now, but also any division and of course flotilla officers who are there, how to get the word out. Try to attend your district meetings, perhaps. That introduction video that Bruce played at the beginning of this call was a very good, succinct introduction that kind of encapsulated everything that AuxScout is about. Make sure you pass the word that any AuxScouts who are members of the auxiliary can serve as staff officers in flotillas. I know that a lot of flotillas are always looking for people to step up to be the SR or FSO, the public affairs officer, things like that. Those are positions that can be filled by teenage members of the auxiliary. And a lot of them are not only good at that job, they're very enthusiastic about it. So, and it looks good on a resume or a college application for them as well. So that's something to think about. If it's possible for you, attend flotilla meetings, even if you're not a member of that flotilla. Any auxiliarist is welcome to attend any flotilla meeting, no matter what. So just get the word out there, spread the word, sell the program, overcome resistance. That's another note that I have here. We just talked quite a bit about that. I know that a lot of the auxiliary members who are not familiar with the Sea Scouts are very scared about lawsuits and with the Me Too movement and things like that. They're just worried about being put in a position where something could happen. That's all I'll say about that. But just remind them that the Sea Scouts is a youth-led program. It's not an adult-led thing. The kids will always take the initiative. I shouldn't call them kids. I'm sorry. The Scouts will always take the initiative in leading any Sea Scout event. So it's nothing that they should worry about. Just something to keep in mind there. So that's all I wanted to say about that as far as getting the word out. And I will be emailing each DSO within the next week or so about what I just said basically too, but I'll share my email in the group chat here in just a second. Second thing I'd like to talk about briefly is that there are some national staff positions available under my branch. First of all, managing the photo archives that Ron Blaisdell did a great job of showing off, and he's been doing a great job of administering that. And anybody who's interested in perhaps helping run the Facebook group, the very active Facebook group, I wouldn't mind having an assistant in that position too. So just email me or Bruce about that, and we'd be happy to have you on board the national staff. You get a cool little badge to wear on your uniform too. And finally, I've been looking through this chat. It looks like there are a lot of fun events that are happening, a lot of boat shows coming up and other events like that. Let me know about that so I can promote it on our social media channels. Anything, I'm working for you guys. Just let me know what's happening and I'll be happy to promote that on our Instagram and our Facebook pages. And yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I will put my email in the box and along with a link to all of our social media accounts. And please follow us. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you very much, John. The next topic I'd like to bring up is building relationships with councils, and Bart Knapp has very kindly agreed to talk about this.
Okay, getting my microphone on. Basically, when I started to look at this, it kind of boils down to, in a sense, I'm a little bit scared of saying this, but basically everybody working this AuxScout program is a salesman for the program, whether it's at the national level, district level, division level, or the local flotilla level. And selling the program to both the auxiliary, as this kind of has been mentioned previously, and to the scouting community. And a successful salesman knows their product, its capabilities, its limitations, and how it can benefit their client or customer. They are also patient and persistent. And I think that's something that we have to be very aware of within ourselves, that this is not going to be something that necessarily just at the snap of the finger, voila, it's open up and everybody's one big happy family doing things. You can have an excellent product that meets all your clients and customers' needs, but if they don't have confidence in you or trust you, your chances of getting the sale is slim. So be enthusiastic about your product, know your product, know how your product is going to benefit your customer, know what your product is not going to do, i.e. don't oversell, and most of all, get to know your customer and become a trusted advisor. And you do that by listening. Next. Okay. The question would be, as a DSO, how do I engage with the Sea Scouts? Well, one of the first things, you're kind of up here in the, not necessarily the 30,000 foot level, but maybe the 20,000 foot level. Your primary contact is going to be your National Service Territory Commodore, whose territory is in your district. Now, we have 8th Eastern has, I don't know how many, is it close to 10? Is it 9 or 10 National Service Territories in it? I think I've got 7. So you might be lucky to have 1, or you might have a dozen. That's kind of a over exaggeration, but still. Get to know him, contact him, get to know him or her, and build a relation. Keep them in the loop of what you're doing. Find out what their concerns are for promoting and establishing and growing the Sea Scout program within their territory, where their problems are, and so forth. Get a list of council commodores and or council contacts from your National Service Territory Commodore, and match your councils to your divisions. But in doing so, you also need to know what your division's capabilities are. And so work closely with your division SOs, yeah, and understand what their capabilities and capacities are. And match Sea Scout needs to the division capabilities. And most importantly, and this was brought out earlier, have regular meetings with your SOs and your FSOs, and be sure to include and encourage the participation of your National Service Territory Commodores and your Council Commodores. Next. Let's talk about this division staff officer and how they can engage with the Sea Scout program. Again, it's coming back to knowing what your capabilities and capacities are for the division that you have to be able to work with the Sea Scouts that are in your division. And then from the information provided by your DSO, establish contact with your council commodores that are within your division. Get to know them. Now, if possible, attend Council Sea Scout roundtables, if there are any. And encourage your FSOs to attend Council Sea Scout roundtables if you cannot, or they should probably do it. You need to encourage them to participate in that way as well. Establish lines of communications with the active duty Coast Guard, whether directly with an active duty member. You might be in a situation where you're at where you have contacts at a Coast Guard base with a detachment or something like that, or through or indirectly through your division's contacts. And be prepared to assist in multi-council or division-wide Sea Scout or Coast Guard events. The prime example there would be safety at sea. Next. Now, down here is at the flotilla level. This is really where the heavy lifting goes, because you are the as the FSO, you are the face. You really are the face locally of the AuxScout program. Get to know the ships in your AOR and their leaders. Attend ship meetings. Try to and listen to them. Listen to them. Listen to them. You will pick up what they are wanting, what they need, and also you can pick up where they could help you, perhaps strengthen your flotilla. Become a familiar face to the ships, to the district, and to the council in your AR. If they see you as part of a team, they're going to be more open to working with you, to letting you in to their activities, should we say. And find out what the ship's needs are and match them to your flotilla's capabilities and capacities. And never, ever oversell what you can do for the ships. That's one way to lose them and create ill will. And if your flotilla can't meet all the ship's needs, help them where you can. And then through your SO and DSO, find help from other flotillas in the area or district or division levels that can help fulfill their needs. And one thought that just recently occurred to me is have an inventory of lesson plans ready for use for teaching Sea Scouts. And you can use the Sea Scout Advancement Crosswalk as a starting point. But don't try to have something ready for all the areas. Concentrate on a few areas that you know you can do well in, and that you can know you can help out this ships in your area. Okay, with that, I'm done with my soapbox.
Okay, thank you very much, Bart. I recently heard from a DSO who's working with a flotilla that wanted to know what a flotilla is committing to if they decide they want to charter a ship. This is a really great question and certainly shows a reasonable concern about honoring commitments. Here's my take on the question. The list on the left reflects the bare minimums that a flotilla or division would be taking on. You will be providing at least one key adult leader and will be helping to recruit others. You'll monitor the ship's program to ensure that they're following BSA and Coast Guard rules. The biggie, ensuring that BSA's youth protection rules are followed. You'll provide program support as appropriate, and you will help with finding a meeting place. The list on the right are some thoughts about things that a flotilla or division should consider taking on. You should provide several adults on a part-time basis. This needn't be the only auxiliary job, and it could simply mean helping out once in a while. Help get the scouts out on the water. Provide structured training. This can simply mean helping with a single Sea Scout advancement requirement. It could mean putting on a public education course. You should help promote the unit. A great place to do this is at boat shows where you're promoting boating safety. And this last one is particularly important and fun. Hold joint training and social events like picnics or banquets. Just as important is what you're not committing to. The flotilla or division is not committing to provide operating funds. The scouts will raise that money themselves. BSA has rules for how that should be done. You do not have to give boats to the Sea Scouts. The Sea Scout ship I organized in Maryland a few years ago owned no boats for the first 5 years of its operation. They simply borrowed them from boat owners who wanted to get out on the water more and didn't mind doing it with teenagers. And yes, there are people like that. You're not committing to pay Coast Guard auxiliary dues for Sea Scout adults. You may want to consider waiving flotilla dues for Sea Scout youth. And you're not committing to pay for auxiliary or Sea Scout uniforms. That said, most flotillas recycle uniforms from members who are no longer wearing them. Why not give them to the scouts? Okay, I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about developing new ship leads. And some of this is going to be a follow-on about some stuff that you've already heard. Organizing ships is actually pretty easy. You just have to decide that you'll work through the process and not let the opportunity drop. Here is my 5-step method for making it happen. Step 1, find a flotilla or division that may be interested in working with Sea Scouts. Once you've identified the unit, check in with them often, at least once every other week. Don't wait for them to make the next move. It's really easy for them to get busy with other things. The local council, Sea Scout leadership cadre, or professional staff can help them with the paperwork. Step 2, help them identify adult leadership and get them trained. The leadership can come from within the flotilla or division, or there may be others in the area with an interest in safe boating or scouts who can take up leadership roles. Not all jobs are time consuming, and doing a good job at finding adults will make this a much easier job for everyone. And of course, make sure that they take youth protection and Sea Scout adult leader basic training. Step 3, we've said this several times this evening: advertise, advertise, advertise. Start at least 6 weeks in advance. Places to tell people about your event: date, location, time. One place is social media. Facebook will target parents of potential members Instagram and Twitter is probably a better place for reaching youth. Your local Scout District Roundtable probably is a great way to announce the new ship, and they're going to have newsletters as well. Get help from your district leaders. Newsletters and bulletins from local churches, homeowners associations, civic associations. And you can post it on community bulletin boards, virtual or physical. Search Facebook for interest groups, moms clubs, neighborhood groups, and so on. Step 4, and I think we tend to forget about this in the auxiliary, but it's important to say it. Have fun. Make sure you start on time. Watch for introverts and make sure that they make a friend, and follow all BSA safety rules. And then finally, step 5, have a sign-up sheet to make sure that you have emails, phone numbers, and so on. Bring BSA youth applications to the event, encourage folks to join. Impulse shopping is really fun. Follow up with a phone call or email within 48 hours. Have a second event planned already with another ship, or even just a movie night or ice cream social. Search for team games or ask teens popular things that they've done with youth groups or other clubs to break the ice. And don't wait for 5 youth needed to start getting active. You'll lose the leads you have. Finally, get the paperwork in quickly. Whatever initial enthusiasm there is will probably fade if you don't keep the ball rolling. Don't expect that people working on the ship will follow through. A lot won't. That's your job. That's why you're getting paid the big money by your boss. Okay, so I've heard from several people that they'd like to have an AuxScout PQS qualification. I'm neither in favor of this or opposed to it. Here are some questions that I'd like to ask you, and I'd really like your feedback on these questions. What would we be trying to accomplish with an AuxScout PQS? Anybody have any thoughts about that? Let me move on to the next one because it's probably really important to answer the first one. What are we trying to recognize? And maybe a related question is, who is potentially eligible? Is it anybody in the auxiliary? Is it just people directly working on AuxScout? Who are we trying to recognize? What are the qualification criteria? And probably most importantly, from my perspective, if anybody is really interested in this, who's willing to put in some work on it? And I'm really not looking for an answer for that today. If you want to drop me a note and say, Bruce, I think this is genius and I want to work on it. Or Bruce, I think this is full of crap. I think you should stop worrying about it. I'd love to have that feedback from anybody. It has come up a lot of times, and I really don't know the answer to that. And I would really love to have your guidance on what, if anything, we might do about this. So, yeah.
Could you help us out a little bit by explaining what is PQS qualification? Some of us don't know that. Well,
okay, personal. What does PQS stand for?
Personnel Qualifications Standard.
Right. And there are a number of PQSs. Some of them lead to some visible piece of insignia. For example, the folks who work with Coast Guard recruiting do a PQS, and at the end of that process, they receive a badge that goes on their uniform. Same with the Academy Admissions Partner Program, and there are a number of other ones. I did several PQSs that led to the marine safety professional pin that I wear on my uniform. The same holds true for the coxswain pin that I wear. So this could be an earned recognition that would either just be a recognition that shows up in your AUX data record, or it could conceivably be a piece of insignia that might go on your uniform.
I can always use another badge.
Oh, come on.
I have to be honest with you. I'm glad when I don't have to put badges on my uniform. And you're probably, well, actually you can't see it, but I have 5 rows of ribbons, but I only wear 1 row of ribbon for half the year. And I'm really pleased to not be wearing the other ones because it's, you know, for me, it's the job. It's not the recognition, but that's just me.
Bruce, this is Rick in Arizona.
Yes, sir.
I always thought that, well, I'm wood badge and powder horn kind of guy. So that's, you know, one little dangly thing on the uniform. I thought the C badge might be a good addition for maybe above the right hand pocket where you have the immediate past flotilla commander, those kinds of badges. I thought that would show that you're taking the advanced course and you're kind of promoting the program. And it's small, probably insignificant, and but I've not done that with my uniform because it hasn't been authorized. But rather than go through a whole PQS, which is a tough thing to do, I think just the advanced C badge would kind of meet the role.
I don't disagree with you. I will tell you that the folks at Coast Guard headquarters are 100% totally opposed to anything of the sort. They will, I feel 100% certain, will never approve the C badge pin on the Coast Guard Auxiliary uniform. It's explicitly prohibited in the SOP.
You could make the qualifications on your PQS the same as the C badge.
Yes, that is a possibility.
And youth protection training, et cetera, et cetera. And so it would align with the same training, but it would also tie the auxiliary in and recognition wise to the work that's being done.
Yeah, question, another question for the PQS. Would you want to have a requirement that whoever earns the PQS be or have served in a Sea Scout adult leadership position?
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. I'm not going to be the one pulling this together. If there are people who would like to work on it, I would entertain volunteers, and you can send me your names offline and I'll see who is willing to step forward to work on this. All right. Thank you very, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So there is a body of training required right now. Adult leader training, youth protection training, C badge training, plus a variety of others, about 5 or 6 that are required now. What additional training are we talking about with regard to a PQS that isn't already encompassed in the training required to perform the job? Unless we're also going to add a requirement to hold a representative position as an adult leader in a ship, and or a leadership position as an FSO or something in the auxiliary. Because from what I can see, the existing requirements that we have to meet pretty much cover it.
That's a good question. I'd like to point out that you are not required to do C badge to do this
Yes,
course.
but if you're going to be active in Sea Scouts, you're going to end up doing it. You're not required,
I agree.
but you're going to do it.
That is the optimal situation. I will tell you, I know a lot of Sea Scout leaders who have not completed C badge, but yeah, okay. What I'd like to do is, if you have some thoughts about this, drop me an email. If you would like to work on this, drop me an email. And please do it in the next few days, and I'll see what my inbox looks like in the coming week, and I'll pull it all together and see if maybe there's somewhere that we need to be going with this. So thank you very much for your comments. I really appreciate your insights, and let's see if this is something that we can build on. I'd like to give you some take-home messages before we get to the questions. There's no getting around the fact that supporting Sea Scouts will take time and effort. The best way to address that reality is to plan and prepare, to be honest about what we can do, build partnerships and relationships with other groups, and to do our best, frankly, because we can't do any more than that. So what do we get out of this? Well, the potential rewards are pretty high. Partnerships help the auxiliary spread its boating safety message. We can encourage the next generation of boaters by giving them the tools to boat safely. We can motivate and challenge the youth of our communities. We can introduce interested citizens to learn about Coast Guard missions and recruit them to the Coast Guard family, whether it's active duty, the Coast Guard Auxiliary, or perhaps consider a civilian career with the Coast Guard. And this creates a wide outward ripple effect. And I know that all of you have heard me say this before: the more you invest, the greater the payoff. You'll help to develop teenagers who are safe boaters and who will be lifelong boaters. We want Sea Scouts, their parents and leaders, to form a positive opinion about the auxiliary and the Coast Guard. We'd like Sea Scouts, their parents and their leaders, to consider joining the auxiliary, and quite a few are. Finally, we're hoping that Sea Scouts will consider Coast Guard careers, and the feedback I'm getting from the Coast Guard is they need our help with this, and this is a great way to make that happen. Now, in the slide after this one, I'm going to give you a link to all of these links. These are your key resources, and as I say, you don't need to know them verbatim, but you should be familiar with these because they're all going to come up at one time or another. This is the URL that you want to copy down, and I think that Holly is going to be copying this into chat, so just copy it and it will take you to all of these links. And I hear her busily typing away across the hall. So before I wrap this up, are there questions that we haven't covered that you'd like to see us discuss? And Holly, if you want to turn off the recording.